Welcome to Mission Driven Founders, where passion meets purpose. If you're dreaming of starting your own business, whether it's in beauty, wellness, or beyond, you're in the right place. We are going behind the scenes with inspiring entrepreneurs who are not just building brands, but driving real change. So hit subscribe, tap the bell for updates, and stick around. This conversation could be the spark that ignites your journey. Today, we're excited to introduce Andrea Ort, founder of the Roxy Grace Company. Andrea, she started Roxy Grace 11 years ago to create all natural, family safe bath products. She holds a bachelor degree in science and brings over 30 years of experience in the dental field, where precision, safety, and ingredient integrity were essential. Today, she blends science and creativity into every small batch product she makes. Now, let's dive into Andrea's inspiring journey and see how she's contributing to our movement and making a difference in the world. Andrea, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me, Wanda.
It's such a pleasure to have you. I'm going to start with the first question, which is your brand's journey, which is truly inspiring. Can you take us back to the moment it all began? What sparked the idea and how did you turn it into reality and the success it is today, right?
Sure, it seems like so long ago. It was 11 years ago. Roxy Grace actually began with DIY kits for kids. There was a lip balm kit, a bath bomb kit, and a body scrub kit. And they were originally created as an educational, hands on way to teach children and families how to make their own thoughtful, all natural products at home using very simple ingredients. And when I say simple, Wanda, I mean things like in your pantry, like white sugar, brown sugar, coconut oil, Himalayan sea salt, and ingredients that really just are simple and easy to understand. And that focus, it really came from personal experience. My whole life I've had extremely sensitive skin, eczema. My father had it, and then my son came along and he had extremely sensitive skin. And I would take him to the doctor, and it's kind of the same story as Nanya. They want to put him on steroid cream, and I said, "Geez, we've really got to go through what we're using, here at home, and see what we're reacting to." And then we just started using really simple things around the home, just mixing oil and sugar, it's amazing. It actually works. But my personal rule of thumb is pretty simple. If I can't pronounce it and I don't understand it, I don't use it. And the DIY kits were also about connection. It's around the time when phones really became popular, and it's easy to give your child a phone, to keep them occupied. But it was about also getting kids off of screens and creating something together, and just really spending good family quality time. And then it's funny because we would go to these events and sell these kits, and everybody was really excited. And then what started to happen is the more events we went to, we started having repeat customers, and people would say, I really like making the kits, but do you have pre-made products? Because I don't necessarily have time to make these myself all the time. And I said, oh well, sure, if you don't have time, we could make them for you. And really just it evolved from there.
I love this story because you were trying to find a solution for your family. And then also, not only for his skin, but also to distract him from being on the electronics all the time, which is what most parents are trying to do, right?
Right.
Take these kids out of the electronics. And this is such a special bonding opportunity between you and your son and your husband and the entire family, the friends. So when you posted that picture of the teenagers that were helping you with the bath bombs, I was like, that is beautiful. That is really what community and parenting is all about, right? I
Right.
love that.
Yeah, they were actually some of my first customers. They had come to the first fair that I had gone to, and anyway, so they know the brand really well, and they're always giving me ideas. In fact, I don't know if you recently saw the 6-7 bath bomb, which I had no idea what 6-7 meant. It's a trend, and I said, well, what's that mean? And they couldn't really understand it either. So I had to look it up, but I actually just came out with a 6-7 bath bomb. Anyway, it's kind of funny.
I love the 6-7 because I still don't understand what it means,
Me
but
either.
it's okay. We have 6-7 bath bombs now.
We have 6-7 bath bombs, and I've actually sold a few. So I said, okay, these kids are on to something.
Amazing. So now that we've talked about the backstory, tell us a little bit about your ideal customer. And I think a lot of kids, teenagers, but I know because when we had the marketplace, we had a lot of grandparents buying for their grandchildren and even adults buying for themselves, which I have one customer that I told you, she got a surprise in her bathtub and she was so happy. She's like, oh my gosh, there was a heart. It was a slinky heart, right? That you put
Right.
inside.
Yep.
So she was an adult. She bought it for herself and she was so happy about that surprise. So tell me a little bit about how you envisioned your products making a difference in the lives of your customers, your ideal customers, and how do you connect today with your customers on a personal level?
So I would say that my ideal customer is really, moms and families who want products that are fun, but still intentional. They want their kids to be excited about bath time, but they also are, they care about what they're using on their skin. So I also work with a lot of small family owned boutiques. Many of them are run by moms themselves who are
Mhm.
looking for thoughtful, playful products, that fit their values and communities. But I try to focus on that balance across the board, fun, colorful packaging that kids are drawn to, paired with, simple, intentional products that parents and shop owners feel good about offering.
And it's been such a success. So I know that whatever you're doing, it's working. People love it, and the products are beautiful. They
Thank
smell
you,
good.
Wanda.
I'm a fan. I'm personally a fan. My kids are.
It was
So
it's funny. It was originally created to teach kids how to make their own natural products at home. But it's funny. I actually really enjoy making like my own lip balms and stuff. And I have a lot of moms and grandmoms, like you said, they're like, oh, I like to use that. So although the packaging is kind of geared towards children, I do have a lot of older people using it as well, which is great. I love it.
it's for all ages, all genders, all walks of life. So, sustainability and ethical sourcing are at the heart of your brand. Could you share the behind the scenes process of how you ensure every ingredient and packaging choice reflects your values? And share with us also any unique challenges you've faced in staying true to this mission? Because as a small business, we know packaging and ingredients, sourcing all of that in small batches can be very challenging.
Yes, it absolutely can be. I do feel though from 11 years ago, it's becoming a lot easier. It's easy to get biodegradable peanuts now, when you're shipping a package. And I do have a lot of customers now who have refill rooms, which is super exciting. I work with 5 of them right now. And they don't want any plastics, any, any, and I said, well, you do understand that, they may break in transit. And they're like, no, we completely understand that. And we're okay with that. So I always send some extras. But I mean, ideally that would be wonderful if everybody wanted everything that, that way. But it's, I think about sustainability in a really practical way, especially as a small handmade business, like you said. I try to keep things simple, using well understood ingredients from trusted US suppliers, making everything in small batches so I can stay, hands on. But when it comes to packaging, I really try to balance sustainability with what actually works for families. I do use lightweight plastic bags, but I use a recyclable bag topper on them. And unfortunately, glass just isn't a great option for my products because shipping weight and breakage and safety, especially for children. But I think the biggest challenge is staying realistic and not doing things just for show. I want the choices that I make to actually make sense for how people use the products in real life.
That shows the authenticity of your brand because you're not just creating a packaging or a product like greenwashing, right? Today it's like all about greenwashing. People say they do this and do that, but
Right.
you started really with the purpose for your family, and you continue that, you grew that organically. You didn't have, like, VCs backing you, investors. You did this, slowly, slowly throughout these 11 years. And today you have a brand name, you have products, you have a reputation that is true to what you started, to what your values are.
Thank you, Wanda.
I like that a lot.
Thank
Well, this
you.
is what the podcast is all about, right? Mission driven founders. And building a brand is a journey filled with highs and lows. We know how hard that is. Can you tell us about a particularly tough moment that you faced and how you pushed through it and the key lesson it taught you as a founder?
There's been a couple of them. I would say that one of the tougher parts for me was learning to really trust my own vision as the business evolved. Over the years, the brand has grown and changed, and the process, forced me to get really clear on what mattered to me and what I wanted Roxy Grace to stand for. And the biggest lesson was that once I trusted my instincts and values, everything just became easier. Decision making, boundaries and growth, and the business felt much more focused and aligned after that.
Yes, I totally understand because it's so easy to be influenced by, outside opinions, and everybody has an advice for you, and sometimes if you start listening to all that noise around you, you can't stay true to your mission,
Right,
and you try to do what's trending, but it's not what's trending. It's what's solid and here to stay, which is the cause that you are embracing, right? Giving
right,
kids, families a truly natural bath product, lip balm, lotion that they can use, they can trust. But if you start going into marketing trends, sometimes, okay, there's a trend here happening on TikTok or this or that, but
right.
that's, is that you, is that Roxy Grace, is that your purpose? So listening to your inner voice, like you said, is so important, especially
It
for
is
startups, right? Because they
right.
want to do everything, and then they feel overwhelmed that they're not following all these trends, they're staying behind. But you're not staying behind, you're staying true to what you believe in, to what you're doing, and the integrity of your products.
Another really, I don't know if you want to hear another tough
Sure.
moment. There's been a few of them, but another really tough moment was I felt like 4 or 5 years ago, every customer I had expected the bath bombs to change the color of the water because that's what bath bombs do. They make, all these iridescent colors in the tub, and they're really fun for kids. And unfortunately, I had a lot of people buying from me that definitely necessarily didn't care if the product was all natural. They wanted that, vibrant effect in the tub. And I remember I got my first 1-star review, and the review said, "Horrible, does not change the color of the water." And I said, "How can I make people read these product descriptions, make them understand we are a dye-free company. They're all natural. We're trying to make them as fun as we can without any, harmful chemicals." And so what I started doing is in the description, I try to put it, right in the beginning, all natural, dye-free. And, luckily over time, that's actually become important to people. They don't want dyes, so it's a lot easier now. But what I did to, try to educate, I put a insert in everybody's package. I made this insert explaining why I use what I use, and this is why I use these ingredients. And then I didn't get, every now and again, of course, a bad review will come in because you can't make everybody happy. But I wanted people to be aware that I do the best I can. But I don't think I'm ever going to be able to change the color of the water because I've tried natural dyes. I've tried so many of them, and I can't get them to work the way I want them to work. So it is what it is. And I just, try to add some biodegradable glitter to stuff, try to make things a little bit more fun where I can. But that dye thing was a really big challenge.
I can imagine how that review, like, it hurts our feelings, right? Because you're like,
It does, because you put it in the description, but people don't necessarily read them. and they when they're buying these, oh, these bath bombs really fun. My son's really gonna love it. And then poor little Johnny gets in the tub and he's like, Mom, these stink. They don't change the color of the water. So anyway, I
It's it's a great point because education, when you are a small business and when you're trying to offer a natural product, it's really hard sometimes to educate the consumer in a way that they truly understand that, okay, changing colors is fun, but what it does to your skin, what it does to your health is
right,
not fun.
right,
So you want to make sure that, okay, your child is going to have fun with that bath bomb, but it doesn't necessarily need to be all these synthetic dyes and
right.
colors that are
And
going
hey,
to,
we put a toy in it.
right, you have a
Don't
toy
forget
in
about the
it.
toy. There's a toy.
I totally understand. And for those who are listening or watching, it is so important to support what we are doing. Ask questions, of course, ask questions, send us messages. And we are trying to educate as much as possible through the podcast, the YouTube channel, but there's limitations to what you can do with an all natural product
Right.
as opposed to a synthetic chemical product that has questionable ingredients, that have ingredients that are not friendly to your skin, to your microbiome. So kids, they drink the bath water.
They
They
do.
do. That's a fact.
They
All
do.
kids, right? I have three, you have a kid. You know that at one point in their life, like when they're one, two, three, or four, they will
Yep.
drink that water. So you don't want that water that changed color. That's
No.
super cool, but that's going into your baby's system, into their
Right.
stomach, into their whole, like, you just don't want that in your
Right.
body.
And and
So
I and I didn't know that at the time, when my son was little, that 60% or 70%, whatever the percentage is a high percentage of things that go on your skin get absorbed in your body. So after I learned that, I was like, oh my gosh, we used to have to start being really careful.
exactly. So before you do a one-star review for a small company, make sure you read all the instructions on the product on the website and understand that there's a whole education behind that product and why it doesn't change color or why it doesn't do we say that a lot with skincare, the Cinderella effect. They want
Yes.
the Botox effect with a cream, and if you're using botanicals, you are not going to get the Cinderella effect. You are
No.
going to have it with consistency, taking care of your skin, of your health, what you put in your body and on your body. So the same goes with your products, right? It's bath
Right.
bombs, it's all natural. So let's support Andrea and no more one-star reviews because she does not deserve it. She deserves 5 stars
It's
always.
funny. I used to get angry about it. Now I don't get angry. I just, I simply say I'm sorry. I try to make that clear that we're an all natural company, and I'm sorry that it disappointed you, but I don't get so worked up anymore. It's okay.
With time and as we grow with our business, we understand that sometimes people really don't read the instructions, and if you have a lot of education like in writing, people sometimes don't read it. So now with the video era, we are hoping
Yes.
that will change a little bit.
Right.
So let's talk about the giving back chain, where
Sure.
brands and consumers unite to support the planet and the community. How does your brand give back? And are there any partnerships or causes that you're especially proud of?
So giving back has always been really important to me, Wanda. But I try to keep it very real and manageable as a small business. I get a lot of people reaching out, and I'm always happy to help, big or small. But over the years, Roxy Grace has supported a mix of local and national causes, things like community fundraisers. We actually used to work with a fundraising company in Connecticut. We did that for a few years. We've sponsored youth baseball and softball teams, and also we've donated to organizations like St. Jude's Research, Hospital. Um, but I don't really look at impact as having to be huge or loud. A lot of times it's the everyday stuff that matters, like consistently supporting local causes, encouraging creativity, family time away from screens, and more mindful routines for kids and and families.
As a small business, I can tell you that you do a lot because the consistency and the intention and the heart that you put into how you give back to the local communities, like the local baseball team or even St. Jude's, which is huge, or local organizations. That's huge because most of the time, when you see big corporations writing $1 million checks, these are also large organizations, right? The
Right.
small ones sometimes don't get all that help. So that's when small companies come in, and the consistency and the help and the support that you give these smaller organizations, it's huge. It's
Yeah.
huge. So I really admire what you do, the work that you do with the community and with the nonprofits, and just educating all the parents with your products and with your ingredients that you use. I love that.
Thank you,
So,
Lon.
Pore, thank you for the work that you're doing. It's amazing.
Thank you.
So, Roxy Grace meets all the criteria for the CMB certification, which reflects your commitment to transparency, sustainability, ingredients, clean ingredients, performance, and social impact. How has CMB certification helped validate these standards and elevate trust and recognition for your brand?
So being certified by Crunchy Mama Box has honestly been, really meaningful to me. It validates the values I've always had for Roxy Grace, and your community of people are looking for products like mine. Transparency, thoughtful ingredients, intentional choices, and it also helps families feel more confident about the products that they're bringing into their homes. I mean, that kind of trust and recognition means a lot, especially as a small business, just, trying to do things the right way.
That means a lot to us because we work really hard to make sure we get that education out to our audience, which are families, a lot of families, but we also have people that are pet parents. We have
Right.
uh, little human parents, but we have pet parents. We have those who are not parents, but they also want something natural for their bodies. And the education, the transparency, it means a lot. And this is why our focus now is really on showing people the stories of the founders, letting them get to know you, getting our audience closer to the founders, and preventing all this greenwashing, because sometimes you go to the supermarket and you read the labels and you don't know what that is. You don't know those ingredients,
No.
if they're harmful, if they're good, if they're not. So you need a resource, and that's what our platform is, a resource where people can not just, it's not just an app that you scan, or the barcode. You can actually call us and you can actually talk to all the founders that we
Right.
work with. It's a very family oriented and personal. It's on a personal level, and not just like wholesale, the big
I love that.
apps and technology. So,
Right. I love that.
and we get a lot of calls, a lot of people, especially when we had the marketplace for your products. They were
Mm.
always asking us and asking validation for the products. And I honestly told them I use it for me, for my kids, so you can trust. I trust, they trust, and this is trust that you've been building for the last 11 years, and it means a lot. It's You don't build the brand overnight. It's a lot of work and a lot of love put into it, right?
Yeah. It is, but it's fun at the same time.
Yes, yes. If it weren't fun, I'm sure you wouldn't be doing it. And if
No.
it weren't, yeah, because all the founders that we have here at Cringy Mama Box, they are passionate about what they do. Because without that passion, we know that you wouldn't be doing all of this, because the challenges are huge. It's not one or two challenges. It's constant daily challenges that we face. But the passion and the mission, they just, they drive us, and that's why we continue, right?
Right.
Thank you so much, Andrea, for
Oh, thank
sharing.
you, Wanda. I appreciate it.
I just love your story, the products, and the community that you've built. It's beautiful, and I want to thank you for sharing your inspiring journey and for all the work that you do to create a more sustainable and conscious world. You've shown us how businesses can truly be a force for good.
Thank you for having me.
It was a pleasure. And to everyone watching, remember that every choice we make can shape the future. So let's choose wisely, live intentionally, and support those who are making a difference. Stay inspired, stay motivated, and let's keep building a brighter future together.